This week I'll be showing you a few things that you can do with interchangeable straight needles. So they come in miniature, small and large. The miniature size fits tip sizes 2mm to 2.5mm. The small size fits 2.75mm to 5mm. And the large size fits 5.5mm to 10mm, just like the sizes of interchangeable cables. So each pack comes with 6 sections to make up 2 needles. So for each needle you get 2 10cm sections and 1 5cm section. So you can connect as many of these sections together as you like to create a needle of any length. I'm going to start with the 2 10cm sections. It's also easier to use needle grips because it helps you screw the sections together nice and tightly so that they won't unscrew while you're knitting, and this also means there won't be any gaps between them so your yarn won't snag either. So we then screw an interchangeable tip to one end, and usually we put a cable stopper on the other end to keep your knitting nice and secure. So I'll just do another one using only one 10cm section, and you can see that this creates a much smaller needle and you can create any size you want. So these much larger ones were made with the large size of the interchangeable straight needles, and all of the sections are used for them, so they're 25cm long without the tip on the end, just using all of the sections screwed together. So now I've put some panda cable stoppers on the straight needles, and this is what they'll look like, and I'm going to show you how to connect a large size of interchangeable tips to the small straight needles, which you might need to do, for example, if you're changing stitch or moving to a chunkier yarn in the middle of a project. So we would begin by unscrewing the small tips from the straight needles, and then we would grab a tip adapter, which come in small and standard. So the small ones are compatible with miniature needles and small tips, and the standard are compatible with small needles and large tips. And the standard is the one that I'm using here. And then we can see the small tip doesn't fit in that needle anymore, so we can instead screw a large tip onto there. So I've just put those smaller tips back on, and I'm going to show you how to switch from knitting straight to knitting on a cable very easily. And all you need, in addition to your cable and your straight needles, is a small cable connector. So I'm going to show you this with just a cast on, but you can do it at any point through your project, or if you're casting on a large number of stitches. Sometimes it's easier to cast on straight needles and then transfer it to a circular, because large cables can get a bit out of control sometimes, or twist more than you want them to. So once we've finished our cast on, or get to the point where we want to change to circular, we can unscrew the interchangeable tip and grab a cable connector. So we sell these in small and large, so for the small needles we'll obviously be using a small cable connector, and we'd use a large one if we were using large needles. So then we can screw the cable onto the cable connector as well, and then very easily slide the knitting onto the cable. So once that knitting is on the cable, we can unscrew the straights and put a interchangeable tip on each end instead, and then continue knitting. So we can also use the straight needles while we're knitting on circular needles to extend the length of them. So this one I'm using here with the 4-inch tips attached is 20 inches, but if we attach the straight needle sections we can make them longer without having to switch to an entirely different cable. So this can be really useful if you're going to start increasing and don't have enough space on your cable for all of those extra stitches. So all we do is take the tips off, screw on whichever sections of the straight needles we'd like to add, depending on how long we want our needle to be, and then screw the tips back on and continue knitting. So the final thing I'm going to show you is how you can use these straight needles to create a double pointed needle of any size. I'll show you this on the large size. So instead of having a cable stopper on one end, we'll screw another interchangeable tip on. This means that you can create any length of DPN you like and use different tip materials or sizes on each end. So you can see here we've got one steel end and one bamboo end, or you could have steel and sharp, or you could have sort of a 6mm on one end and an 8mm on one end, depending on your project or your preferred knitting style. And then the tip adapter can come in really handy again here if you want quite a large difference in tip sizes on each end, because you can use one very small tip and one very large tip at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed this video and these tips have been helpful.